You have to give credit where credit is due. And tonight, all that credit goes to Tszyu. He went out there going into this fight knowing that all the eyes were on him, knowing that everybody was watching, knowing that he had everything at stake. A lot of people were saying that this was going to be a challenge. I was one of them, thinking that this was going to be the toughest fight of his career, the most challenging opponent that he was going to face. A lot was on the line, and he made it look easy. Look, Steve Farhood, unofficial judge working for Showtime, gave 1 round to Tony Harrison. I gave him 2 rounds. The 3 judges ended up making this 77-75 before the stoppage, which is 3 rounds to Tony Harrison. I'm a little bit surprised at that. I didn't see the 3 rounds. Nevertheless, none of those opinions matter. None of those scores mean anything at all. The only thing that mattered was Tszyu's right hand. He went out there and clubbed Tony Harrison in the head with it multiple times until they finally had to call this fight off. Impressive victory for the man. You know, it was pretty obvious that Tony Harrison won that first round, and he won it in a way that a lot of us expected him to see success this fight, and that was with the jab. He was getting in a little bit of movement, not too much, but he was working behind that jab. It was crisp, it was long, he was controlling the distance. Tszyu was in what I would say was a stalking type mode, not getting much work done at all. Tony walks away with the round, but that was about it. Tszyu came out in that second round, and from there on out, he continued to apply the pressure. He increased his work rate greatly. Started to apply the pace slowly but surely, round after round. Didn't get much body work done throughout the fight, but he was landing a lot of power punches. The story of that fight was the right hand. He was getting it over the top of Tony's jab. He was leading with it. He was getting good combinations done. He was maintaining the distance he wanted, that mid-range. And just from there, he was able to get good work done. Just punishing Tony Harrison, keeping him up against the ropes. Look, it didn't help Tony's case that was a small ring. Not surprised by it. We know what Tszyu's game plan coming in was. That small ring was definitely beneficial to him. They're fighting over there in Australia. If they could have fought inside of a phone booth, I'm sure that's what Tszyu would have voted for. Nevertheless, I don't think it would have made any difference if they were fighting in a 24-foot ring. Just might take a little bit longer. Maybe Tony would have actually won an extra round or 2. But the better man tonight is the one who won the fight. And that's Tszyu. So look, a lot of times after a fight, we see a fighter's performance, we start to speculate on what may be next. We don't have to do that here. We know exactly what's coming up in the next fight. That's going to be Tszyu against Jermell Charlo. Everybody knows about it. It was supposed to be the fight going into this one. They had Jermell Charlo on the broadcast team for a reason. Now, it shouldn't surprise anyone that when they asked Charlo what he thought of Tszyu's performance, he said he wasn't very impressed. And what's ironic is that going into this fight, Tony Harrison made a critique of Tszyu saying he's a basic fighter. I can go to any city, any gym across America. I can find a guy to look exactly like him. Coming out of tonight's fight, you could make the same argument. You could look and you could say, yeah, Tszyu won the fight. Relatively basic performance. Didn't do anything special. But one of the things you got to ask yourself is, if all the man does is basic, if all the man does is nothing special, how come the man keeps winning? We've now seen him in against 2 fighters who are universally recognized as top fighters, former world champion in Tony Harrison and Terrell Gushaw. Where do we go from here, right? From a basic fighter. So now we've got just a basic fighter, just a nothing special fighter who's going to be fighting for the undisputed championship at 154 pounds. Here's the thing. It may be nothing exotic, it may be nothing special, but it doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. It doesn't matter what activity you're talking about. If you're dealing with a person or a team who has become a master of the basics, that is going to be a formidable opponent. The basics are the basics for a reason, and that's because they work. They've stood the test of time, they've proven to be formidable, and if you master those, you will be able to stand up against anybody in your chosen profession. So when we look at Tszyu and we say, hey, he's a basic fighter. Hey, he's not doing anything special. Doesn't mean he can't make it all the way to the top. Now look, he's going to be an underdog going in against Jermell Charlo, and he's going to be an underdog for a reason. Jermell Charlo has performed at the top level for longer. He went out and got all those belts in an impressive fashion. He's explosive. He's long. Good jab, powerful right hand, throws combinations well. One of the things that he was talking about during this broadcast was how Tony Harrison wasn't stepping around. Tim Tszyu fights in straight lines. What's going to happen if they're in there in a big ring with a man who's fleeter of foot, who's got very good athletic ability, who understands how to step around, got a good hook to help him step around, uses good upper body movement? It's easy to sit here now and say that that's going to cause Tim Tszyu trouble. One thing's for sure, we're going to be able to see that fight happen. Man, I'm excited about it. One of the things that we talked about after this fight was that however you felt about Tim Tszyu versus Charlo going in, you're now more excited for it afterwards. We saw Tony Harrison beat Jermell Charlo. We saw Tony Harrison give Jermell Charlo trouble at points in their second fight. We now saw Tim Tszyu dominate Tony Harrison for the fight. That makes me want to see what's going to happen between Tim Tszyu and Jermell Charlo. That is going to be a good fight. So let me know what you guys think. Were you impressed with the performance that Tim Tszyu put on tonight? Did it make you more excited for the fight against Jermell Charlo? And how exactly do you think that one's going to match up?